Welcome to Community Chat. We utilize this program to better inform the fine residents of Abington about some of the things that are going on in and around the community, have conversations about issues, political ideals, even upcoming events. Today we are privileged to be speaking with Mr. Peter Schafer. He is the Abington Public Schools Superintendent. And last year it was announced that he was going to retire at the end of June 2024. And so we thought we would reach out and have that conversation as he still has days left before he says goodbye. Mr. Schafer, welcome to Community Chat.
Thank you for having me.
Let's kind of start off talking about education. For folks who may or may not know, they may be new to the community, how long have you been in education?
34 years in total.
Wow. And what was it like to choose education as a career path? Was there a second or third where you're like, that might be something I want to explore?
I'm very lucky that this is the road I went down. I've benefited from getting up every morning and doing something I believe in. It hasn't always been easy, but there's never been a shortage of desire or passion or wanting to come in and kick in the door and get stuff done in this field. So
what about as far as becoming, what type of a teacher were you when you first started out?
So I started in Springfield, and to be honest with you, there were days in Springfield I would laugh so hard with kids that I cried. My sides would hurt, and I'd say to a class, I can't believe they pay me to do this job. It was a blast. I loved it. It was the right choice for me.
Okay. What about, but some people, when they're teachers, they like being teachers. They like, providing that information for our future. That's what we look at our children as. We're educating them to become adults to eventually take over a lot of the things that happen, whether it's on the municipal level, government level, and a lot of the key things that we know about our culture. What made you decide to go from being a teacher to, a principal or ultimately a superintendent?
So I started with a degree in science at UMass Amherst. Didn't think I would be a teacher. I was a pre-med student, and my advisor told me that I wanted to be an emergency room doctor, to be honest with you.
Wow.
And my advisor told me that there were other kinds of doctors that I could be. If I wanted to be a medical doctor, the kind of doctor I wanted to be, it would take additional time. And I said, I don't want to be any one of those kinds of doctors with respect to all kinds of doctors. I want to be somebody who's on the front line, getting your hands dirty, in the mix. And that's how I ended up in Springfield as a teacher, because I wanted to be, I know it's going to sound sappy, but I wanted to be one of those people that does right and good in the world and makes a difference. And so I followed that track, and then I didn't want to be an assistant principal. And the people that I worked with, there was an opening or an interim need. Somebody was out, and they said, Peter, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. Okay, I'll do it. And then I was an assistant principal. And then I went to Silver Lake as an assistant principal. And I love that too. I still see the kids, now they're older. Now they're like in their 30s, for crying out loud, 40s, that I worked with at Silver Lake. And, people said to me, you ought to try being a principal. I didn't want it. And I said, okay, I'll try it. And then I ended up here in Abington as a principal at the Frollo Middle School, and I loved it. And then there was an opportunity at central office, and people said you should do that. Okay, I'll try that, and that's how I became superintendent of schools. And I've been here, and I've been so lucky to be a part of Abington, a community that I've grown to. I'll use the word love. I don't throw that word around. Love this community, and I've just been very fortunate to be a part of it.
What is it like to cross paths with a former student or a student that, you were the assistant principal, superintendent, to see them and kind of see them from however they were when you were a teacher or whatever, school, to being productive in today's society, and them telling you this story?
It's a mix. It depends on the individual, because you get to know people, and some of the kids that I've known and worked with, you worry about them and you worry that they're going to make it, the challenges in the world that they're going to face, and then you see them and they're doing great, and it just hits you in your heart that you're excited and happy for them. Other kids that you've worked with who have had, they got a good deal, and they have all the skills, and nothing's going to stop them. You see that they're incredibly successful, and that they're doing so well, and again, you feel so happy for them. It's good to see them, and to know who they are, and that they've done well. And then other times, you see people that are struggling as adults, and you just hope, and you continue to hope that they're able to get on their feet, and it bothers you because I think it's just how I'm wired. You always want to do more. You realize sometimes things aren't going to go well. There's no such thing as perfect, but you always strive for it. And so it's a mix of emotions depending on the individual that I see as has graduated and moved on.
I feel that education is always evolving, and whether it's due to the particular school system, information as it's updated, to dealing with state and federal guidelines, how have you tried to work with the ebbs and flows of how information, how education is delivered, whether it's as a teacher or as an administrator?
So, to be honest, I've always tried to get at least a C in compliance with the state. There's things that we have to do, and we do them because they're requirements. Most of them for good reason. Some of them are overreach, and you just need to use good judgment, and they're in place because somebody else did something that they shouldn't have done someplace else, and that's not you. Education, I worry about our families and what our kids are provided. That's certainly changed. That's become more challenging because, kids are in school for 6.5 hours a day, and they live a 24-hour life. And people continue to throw things at the schools to make it right for kids, and we want to make it right for kids, and we'll never stop doing everything that we can. But 6 hours in a 24-hour day, there's a longer life and a bigger responsibility with families and a community to help to take care of kids. And the thing that's funny is kids haven't changed. I mean, they're born and they're a clean slate. And then it's everything else that manipulates who they are. And so I worry with social media, with families that are distracted by other things, other priorities other than their kids. What's happening to kids? But kids are still resilient, and they're kids, and they make mistakes, and that hasn't changed.
Yeah, Ty, you've been in education for nearly 4 decades. We'll say greater than 3, and at the start you didn't have to deal with social media, but as we all became acclimated, it becomes that additional what is X in the math equation when you're dealing with something that may be a greater issue when it comes to a particular student or school environment. So what's that been like, having to kind of whether as a teacher, as a principal, or even as a superintendent, where you may have to have discussions with department heads how to handle this?
We all handle it as best we can. Social media, that horse has left the barn. It's not going away. Just like, AI, it's here, and we have to deal with it. And that's just the way it is. We have a good cry about, how damaging things can be, but we have to deal with them. And so we deal with them as best we can. But the immediate gratification that social media provides, I don't think is healthy for people. I think they've lost some of their grit in terms of, how to handle situations. They escape to this world that isn't the present. We could do a whole other show on that.
Sure.
But, everything that plays out in society, everything that plays out in America plays out in schools, whether it's, political or social media or whatever it is, because we're America's schools and we have to deal with it. And that's just the way it is.
Has it over time become tougher to provide a good quality education? And not necessarily the materials, but also being a superintendent, you have to sit in those meetings when it talks about, hey, we're getting ready for fiscal ... and what do we have for monies to be able to retain teachers, to be able to provide certain programs? What are we cutting? What are we keeping? Has become tougher, a challenge.
I mean, everybody knows that the economy runs in cycles. Mm-hmm. And in Massachusetts, in many communities, we run, we rely on new growth. And so we've had a good patch of time with new growth and federal funding. I worry about the future when things run in cycles. And so you have to prepare for them as best you can to be able to weather storms as long as you can and as best you can. But we're not responsible for the storm. We just have to get through it. And so the last, 6 years or so have been very good years. It won't always be like that. Mm.
Let's talk about challenges you faced as a superintendent. What are some of the greatest challenges that you've had to face, whether good or bad? Yeah. I think everybody in a career path, you should always be challenged. I think it makes us all better people when there's a challenge and we're able to overcome and adapt and thrive from the challenge.
So, as I reflect on this, the toughest piece is when you lose a kid. You just don't, that's the biggest challenge. It's, there's headlines about, whether it was, other political pieces or COVID or whatever it was. Those are difficult because you care and you want to get the system through it as best you can. You've got to manage the situation. But tragedies in families are probably the toughest part. There's many more good times than bad times, but if you're going to ask me, those are the toughest parts.
Let's talk a little bit about the pandemic, something that none of us really could predict or know. I mean, it's been teased prior to March 2020.
Something that nobody wants to talk about.
Nobody wants to talk about, but I mean, what was it like to endure those times and trying to find a way to provide an education, getting back to reality, but yet dealing with some of the residuals that were provided by a pandemic?
I think we did the best that we could. We had to follow what was required, and mistakes were made in terms of some of the things that were done. But like I said, there's no such thing as perfect. You work for it all the time. On balance, the way we were separated, which was required, was tough. That absolutely had an impact. It had an impact on all of society, not just kids. You've still got adults that are struggling to do anything but stay home, and it's just, we got to get over it. We got to put it in the rearview mirror and hold people to high standards and require that they it's got to be in the rearview mirror. Let's go. It's over.
When did you decide that it was time to retire, and how tough of a decision was that?
There's an equation around your retirement, your pension that hit for me, and so it makes sense to move on. At the same time, it's what's healthy for an organization. And as much as I appreciate being a part of it, and I'm going to miss the job. I don't know what I'm wired for other than this daily, let's kick in the door and let's go. It's just how I'm wired. So I can't tell you personally how I'm going to do, but it's time and it's healthy to have a change. So for an organization.
Okay. Talk to me some of your best memories, whether it's as an assistant principal or ultimately a superintendent. Any memories that pop up that still make you smile and say, hey, this is why I became an educator. This is why I'm involved with a public school system.
So there are three that come to mind. One is seeing our kids with some pretty significant challenges and disabilities that will either perform or exhibit or do something, and then seeing the other kids in the school community just get behind them and support them. Whether it's a unified game, or I've seen performances or exhibitions of work that some of our kids with significant challenges have done. It's a beautiful thing to see those students with those challenges have the courage to put themselves out there, and the bravery that they have to meet the challenges that they have when they get out of bed every single morning. Makes me feel good that we're able to provide an environment where that takes place. And then I'm so proud of the rest of the school community, our kids that get behind them and support them, and they're a part of the social life and the part of our school. That's not to say that that's always perfect in that arena. We can always get better. Second one is probably the day that we got the vote to build this building. I remember going out back behind the old high school that looked like it was out of a movie about what bad schools are. That old building. It was a good school, but it was time. And I just looked out on the field where this building is now, and I just couldn't believe that we were able to build this building. And I do think that it's a building. It's the people in the building that make the difference. But I do think the combination of the two, giving people that are amazing, teachers and professionals and paraprofessionals, what they do with their job, the tools they need to do their job, has been a tremendous benefit to the kids we serve. And then the other one was being a part of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I was able to march in the parade. St. Patrick and Mrs. Bailey let me do that, and with their committee, and it was just, I don't know, it's very moving to see so many people that I've gotten to know in Abington and be a part of such a great day.
Will that be the one thing that the one thing that you'll miss is the community that is Abington, because it is a wonderful community, and it's a group of caring people who will come together in a time of crisis, and also if there's a need, they will be there to meet it.
Exactly. That's how I feel.
Okay.
You put it into words. I've gotten to, nothing's perfect. There's a couple of characters in town, but on balance, I mean, it's a wonderful community, and the people that care. And I've gotten to watch these families grow, and I got to get to know them, and then I see them, and I know some of their histories, and I just don't think many people get that through work, and I got to have that, so I'm very lucky.
So Felicia Michella and Chris Basta, your superintendent and assistant superintendent,
Yep.
Fantastic team. Talk to me about what the transition has been like to kind of get them ready to succeed come the fall of '24.
So that's why the announcement was made so long ago. Believe me, hanging around with that label that I'm retiring is not what I wanted. But in terms of transitioning the organization in a way that's healthy and planned and provides some stability was important. And Abington has what it needs to meet the challenges of the future. There's a good team in place with, like I said, some consistency and stability, with a good background and a firm foundation. And at the same time, change is good. So that change is taking place, and it's healthy for the system. So I'm excited about the future for Abington.
What does it look like for, have you envisioned it, a retired Peter Schafer? Are you going to miss the grind? Or do you feel that life is going to find a way to kind of fill in what you're subtracting?
I mean, I'm very lucky that my family puts up with me. My wife and I still like each other after all this time. We've got plans to do some things together. She's still to be working. She travels for work. Sometimes I'll be able to tag along with her. But I've also got almost 30 years of deferred maintenance around my house. I'm going to be doing exciting things like replacing dry rotted boards.
Honey-do list?
No, both my own list and her list.
Okay.
And my kids are, I'm fortunate, to spend time with them. And so I'll also be doing some work on the side. It's more of a, slowing down, but there'll be some consulting work and some coaching of administrators and things like that. Because, and I'm excited about doing that coaching of new administrators, because I really either love or like what I do depending on the day. I don't love everything, I don't necessarily like everything, but on balance, I'm excited about continuing in education, talking about teaching and learning and doing what's right for kids.
We're at that point of the show where I build into this particular program almost like a blank question. And the blank question is that, is there something that we haven't discussed here on the program involving your retirement? We haven't touched upon it, but you may want to, speak to it, or maybe something we were discussing earlier, maybe it just came to you that you'd want to add a little bit extra to something we may have already discussed.
Just that the one thing that I haven't touched on is one of the most incredible strengths that Abington has is a faculty and a staff that I respect and I admire. I'm amazed by. Again, nothing's perfect. Not everybody is a 10 out of 10. But I'd put my own children in any one of the classrooms here in Abington, or my grandchildren, God willing, I get grandchildren at some point, in any one of the classrooms in Abington, and know that they were cared about and taken care of. And when I say faculty and staff, that's a broad term. I'm talking about people that teach kindergarten and calculus. I'm talking about building and maintenance, who keep our buildings warm. I'm talking about our school bus drivers. I'm talking about our food service people that provide meals for our kids, our tutors and our paraprofessionals. They all get it. They get the mission. Doesn't mean that people don't make mistakes, but in their heart and soul, they stand and deliver for kids because they care. And I'm going to miss them. I appreciate that I was a part of this mission that we all have. Also, I got to talk about the town departments. Again, nobody's perfect. No department's perfect. People make mistakes, but whether it's police or fire or water or treasurer collector, and I'm going to miss, I shouldn't have started listing departments because I'm going to miss somebody. They work together, they care about the community. Our elected officials, they don't receive a dime. And they're not perfect, but they work hard because they want to do what's right for Abington. And so I guess that's the only thing. I just appreciate all those people, and I wanted to make sure that I share with Abington that I think you're in a good place with all those groups.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on and being a part of this program and talking about your time as an educator and your last days as a superintendent, but yet so maybe we can find a way to coerce you to come in and do a cable show if you're looking to spend a couple extra minutes. But we thank you for all your hard work and your dedication, not only to the school system, but even this studio and anything else that you've done during your time here in Abington. So we thank you.
So I want to go back with you for a second, though, as you thank me about this, and I want to recognize the work you've done with the cable studio through the pandemic. You helped us stay connected with families in the community. They got to see things that they wouldn't have ordinarily been able to see. And then I think that helped create an expectation of service that you would provide for the community that you've done your best to maintain. And it's an important part of who we are to be able to stay so connected. And Kevin, whether it's you and the people that you work with who are great, broadcasting, an elected committee, or a play, a drama production, or a sports event. We need people to be connected to who we are and what we're doing, and you've helped us do that. So I appreciate that. You involve our students in the studio that potentially go on to be a part of a great vocation in production. So thanks for all you've done in partnering with us to do all those things.
It's a team effort from our board members to our staff and the interns that are, we got a new crop of interns we're looking forward to once the older ones go about their way and higher education, that they'll be the next crop to provide coverage. So thank you. It means a lot that you recognize that, and that again we're all in this together as part of community. We're just a cog in the machine to keep life going. So again, thank you.
Thanks.
And we want to thank you for tuning into a program like Community Chat. If you have any ideas for programs, send us an email. info@abingtoncam.tv. That's the easy way to do it. info@abingtoncam.tv. And until our next program, have yourself a great day.